What is up, football fans? This is Danny Austin. This is the Live from the 55 podcast here from our Flames Nation studios in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We are about 15 minutes down the road from McMahon Stadium, where I just got done covering the Labor Day Classic. I am exhausted. My throat is sore. I need to drink as much water as possible before bed. Honestly, what a wild league we have. We're going to kind of get into all of it. Um, I've got Derek Dennis, who very kindly gave up half an hour of his time to come and talk. Obviously, former most outstanding offensive lineman in the CFL, longtime Calgary Stampeder, played around the league, but just such a smart guy, and a guy who I actually think is just smarter about football than me and smarter about a lot of things than me. So absolutely thrilled to have Derek joining us. He'll be on in a couple minutes, but before we get to him, we'll just kind of break down the weekend's games, and we're gonna start with Calgary Edmonton at halftime. I think pretty much everyone, it was 18. It was what 18-10, and my Twitter mentions were not a happy place. There were a lot of very upset Calgary fans. It sort of felt combined with Saskatchewan beating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on Sunday. This was a game that the Stampeders just absolutely had to win, and being down at halftime, the offense did not look good, particularly in the second quarter. Didn't love the protection that the O line was giving Jake Mayer. I don't, other than the interception, like he was trying to make a play, it was clearly a little bit misguided. But the Stampeders didn't look good, and we've seen them not look good in that particular way, with the offense just stalling and quick two and outs, and not finishing drives, and all of that. We've seen that so many times. So I understood very much the frustration. And with the Riders at 6-5, the Stampeders going to 3-9 and losing today's game would have just been utterly disastrous. It would have meant, let's be honest, that the West Division, that path to the playoffs for the Stampeders was pretty much done. This is something I had Jerry Modejong from Edmonton talking, and to be honest, when the Riders won on Saturday night, which was such a big, impressive, huge win, I think that both of us felt, okay, chances are the teams that we cover, if they're going to get into the playoffs, are going to have to go through the East and get that crossover. And then you saw the Ticats lose big to the Argos. Ticats are currently in third place. That suddenly is a pretty reasonable possibility. But the Stamps, ultimately, there was real doom and gloom stuff at halftime. And then they came out, and I will say in particular in the fourth quarter, and I get accused of being too easy on Jake Mayer. I was told by one person to open my eyes today. Well, my eyes are open. Three third quarter or fourth quarter touchdowns, driving the team down the field. Jake Mayer's final line read 27 of 34 for 315 yards. Yes, there was an interception in there. He ran for a touchdown. I think he was exceptional. I think his receivers were absolutely the best that they've been all year. Now, Reggie Bagleton's been good all season, but seeing Mark and Michelle with the ball in his hands in the open field, there were a couple plays that there's not many people like him in the CFL for sure. He is so good at making defenders miss. I thought that was amazing. I think Marky Ambles, what I'm seeing it now, 7 catches for 76 yards, including one late in the game where he, just took a huge hit to make that catch. And I just think that's what Marky Ambles gives you, is that physicality, that ability to bring the ball down. And yeah, and Bagleton doing Reggie Bagleton things. Didn't have a 200-yard game, but it was huge. I thought that the offensive line did play a little bit better. Dave Dickinson said, look, that the Elks weren't really coming with everything later in the game, and that did give Jake a little more time. But either way, St. Peter's got the job done, 35-31. If you were at that game, first of all, credit to you if you were at that game. It rained all day here in Calgary. It was cold. It was incredibly smoky. They had to cancel the flyover with the Jets before the game. It was that smoky. If you came out, good on you, man. You're a good fan. Loved seeing you out there. There were over 26,000, almost 27,000 fans in the stands at McMahon. Biggest crowd of the year. It was just nice to see. And ultimately, look, that first half might not have been great, but that second half was. That was an amazing game. I'm obsessed with straightforward guys. This guy is so fast. The Elks really, I'm really excited about what they've got coming at quarterback. There's been so much negativity about the Elks in recent years, but you watch that guy. There were plays he made that I could not believe, and there was one where he dropped back and then dropped back again, made guys miss, found the angles, scampered for I honestly don't know how many yards. I know he had a 40-yard run, but 135 yards on the ground. 137 through the air. Just count me as in as a Trey Ford fan. I think he's still got a lot of development to do, and he's got improvements to make. But just what a player, what a fun guy, Canadian quarterback. You love to see it, and yeah, I mean, I think that the Elks this loss, if we're being honest, with any hopes of a playoff run, I guess they can come back and sort of stay in the mix with a win in the rematch on Saturday. But they're probably done and dusted. But there's still been so much progress since that absolute rock bottom that we felt they were at a month or so ago. And they gave the Stamps all that they could handle. That was a tough physical game. I think that the Stamps, you're not necessarily walking away from this game saying, "Oh, we're the best team in the league," but I know they were proud of the way they fought, and I think that if you're a Stamps fan, you're probably pretty excited to get that one because it gives you a little bit of hope, and hope's been hard to come by around Calgary these days. If you're a football fan, so yeah. Beyond that, Lions, Alouettes, 35-4-25 for the Lions. What a big win for them. I had been saying on this podcast that I really was starting to sort of not see them as a top three contender right now. And I sort of had them and the Alouettes bunched in that 4-5 slot. No, yeah, 3-4 spot, not 4-5, with a clear Argos and Bombers as my 1-2. Maybe with the Bombers as one, though not anymore. And yeah, I think the Lions went out there. Perfection is not the point, but I do like Vernon Adams throwing for 300 yards. Uh, there was just look, that was a win. That's a game that the Lions I think really needed. I think they needed to end the negative momentum that had sort of taken hold this season, and I think they got it done. And look, the Alouettes, you're not going to worry too much about this. You're still the second best team in the East, and that's not going to change. They're a fine football team. You don't want to lose that one, but really, does that change anyone's opinion? We still know they're probably a top 4 or 5 team around the CFL. And then, yeah, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg. Guys, I really got this one wrong. Like, I'm not kidding. Uh, I took it for granted that the Bombers were going to win both of these games. Um, I really thought no matter what, where the Stampeders were at, the Stamps had a good chance of sweeping the Elks in their Labor Day games. And I thought for sure the Bombers were just going to lock down and do it. But then, man, I've said this, the Rodgers fight. I like the way that this team fights. Now, I don't like the way they headbutt. So let's comment on that real quickly. There's nothing to say. What are we going to say? Like, obviously, Pete Robertson, for those who didn't see it, Rough Riders D lineman, he just flat out headbutted Zach Caleros. It was a stupid thing to do. He clearly just lost his cool and did it. CFL suspended him right away. They suspended him this morning, on Monday morning, did not wait. Right thing to do. Dumb thing to do. I don't think we need to kick this guy out of the league. I don't think we need to treat this like this is, the second coming of Garrett Marino or something like that. But, very dumb thing to do. You hate to see it. Don't do that. But yeah, beyond that, look, if you're the Riders right now, when Trevor Harris went down, people thought your season was done. You guys were cooked. Right now, you're 6-5. There's probably a better chance that the Riders catch the Lions than that the Stampeders catch the Riders, if we're being totally honest with you. The Lions are about 8-4, and the Stamps are 3-8. Rough Riders are there at 6-5. I think that the Riders, they've overcome adversity. Dolagala goes out there, throws for 326 yards. It's not perfect. None of it is. Perfection is not the goal. But you beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a Labor Day game. I think that matters. So right now, I think we can pretty comfortably. It would take a really epic collapse for the Riders to not make the playoffs at this point, and particularly in that 3 spot in the West Division. I think that they're not in. There's a lot of football left to be played, but they've overcome the odds and they've turned some heads. And you know, right now, yes, the Stampeders have a head-to-head game with the Riders, but the thing is, like, are we watching the Stampeders and saying like, oh, that's a team that looks like they're gonna win 4 or 5 of their last 6? Not necessarily. I don't know that they're gonna get there. And they're now what? They're 4-8. So realistically get to 8 wins, which I comfortably think the Riders. I'm not going to break out their schedule right now, but they have some winnable games on their schedule. They have games against Ottawa. They have games against Hamilton. They have a game against Toronto at the end of the season that Well, Toronto's not going to be resting anyone. I believe there's a bye week there, but either way, I think the Riders have done it. They have gotten to the point where that playoff spot is theirs to lose, and I don't see them losing it. I'm really impressed, and yeah, didn't see it coming. Shout out to me for being wrong on that. You got to admit when you're wrong. Finally, Toronto 41, Hamilton 28. I'll be honest with you, I sort of only watched bits and pieces of this game because I was getting ready for the Stamps and Elks. And as I said, it was really sort of crazy circumstances. There was a while where it genuinely seemed like, should this game be happening with all the smoke? I'm not sure I fully understand the CFO rules there, but you know, the game did go on. I don't think anything bad happened there, but I sporadically watched this Argos Ticats game, 41-28. I already done the interview with Derek. We shot that sort of before we did this, and Derek just flat out said, he's like, if anyone's not taking the Argos seriously as the number one team in the league, they're crazy. But the Grey Cup champions, they are, yeah, they're what, 8-9-1. I'm not sure if the CFL standings on Google have updated. I wish I had that right. Huh. Not sure what to do about that. Either way, they're beating everybody, and they went out there. Chad Kelly signed a new contract this week. Going to be much better paid next season. I do think that is going to have an effect on the roster construction of the Toronto Argonauts. But you know, look, threw for 200 yards. Ouellette threw for a touchdown. That was a wild play. It was like that play calling. Yeah, they did what they needed to do, which was handily beat their biggest rival in the Labor Day game. 41-28. I don't think there's that much to say about this. The best team in the league beat a team that is one of the worst teams in the league. Certainly not. I don't think any of us view the Ticats as being contenders right now. It would not surprise me if we're seeing the Argos beat somebody else in Hamilton in November in the Grey Cup. They just continue to sort of roll. And if injuries don't come and derail their season, I think that yeah, they're going to be there at the end of the year. That's for sure. So, anyways, guys, I'm exhausted. I'm so grateful that Derek came on. It's been a very fun week. There's a quick turnaround for everyone here. Labor Day this week, I always end up, and I mean, I'm not traveling for work this year, so it's a little bit easier, but I always end up at the end of Labor Day just absolutely exhausted, just a shell of myself, and hoping not to be that way. But yeah, next we've got Hamilton, Ottawa. I'm not going to tell you, you absolutely need to watch that game, guys. It's okay if you skip that one, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe there's something there. Montreal at Toronto. I hyped up the Montreal Toronto matchup a couple weeks ago. I think that this is a game that sure is going to matter to the Alouettes. The Alouettes are going to want to prove that they can beat elite teams around the league, and with the playoffs only a couple months away, what, 2 months now, less than that. Yeah, I firmly believe the Alouettes are going to want to send a bit of a message here. So that one's fun. Sask Winnipeg rematch. Bombers are going to be hard to beat twice, but I'm not ruling out the Riders for all the reasons I said before. And then you have Calgary and Edmonton, which, do any of us know? Are we going to pretend that we know what's happening with either of these two teams right now? But I had a lot of fun tonight. So, looking forward to all this. This is another fun weekend. We're in September. We all say, oh, the season doesn't start till Labor Day. There's a reason people say that, but the games do get fun. Weather gets a little cooler, at least out west. Games start mattering a little bit more. The fact that we're sitting here at Labor Day and the playoff implications of these Labor Day games are very clear for all of us to see. That's fun. I think it just kind of brings a little bit of focus, and yeah. So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. We're gonna get to Derek Dennis again. Covered Derek for a long time while he was playing with the Stampeders, one of the elite offensive linemen of the last 10 years in the CFL. He retired earlier this year. You'll hear it. He sort of said, the right call came. If someone wanted me, I'd be willing to do it. I'd be willing to consider it. Thinks he might be able to play, but are there teams around there with needing offensive linemen? Yes, every team needs offensive linemen. So, anyways, Derek, it was a really fun interview, really awesome, super smart guy. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, Mike's Pub and Fraser and Fig. And yeah, let's get to Derek. Guys, let's say you're having a party. Let's say you're having a picnic. Let's say you're having any occasion. I got to talk to you about Fraser and Fig, because I love these guys. Here in Martin Loop, a couple storefronts down from our studio here. Fraser and Fig, man, these guys do these delicious elevated cheese and charcuterie boxes. They're made with all these fresh artisanal ingredients, on-demand grazing, pick up, delivery. You got it. Just let them know what you want. They will get it to you. Honestly, I'm such a big fan. I had a picnic a little while ago. I brought one of their curated boxes, and it was a huge hit. I looked great. People loved it. were hungry. They weren't hungry anymore. These ready to go boxes, they got them in 4 sizes. All their boxes come with meat, cheese, dried fruit, fresh fruit, nuts, olives, pickles, and carrots. Their selections vary from month to month. Choices are always new. Just because you've had one doesn't mean you've had them all. I love Fraser and Fig. I love having them as a sponsor. They're the best. Make sure you check them out. Tell them Live from the 55 sent you. All right, Derek Dennis. It's good to have you. Man, I'm exhausted just having watched that game. Just tell me what's going through your head right after the Stampeders kind of knocked off the Bombers. Or the
Man,
sorry.
I mean, yeah, honestly, it's to be honest, man, them boys almost kind of threw their playoff hopes out the window. I mean, it's still a tight window, and they still got a lot of work to do. But if they had lost this game, it was pretty much a done deal, especially with Sass beating the Bombers last night. I mean, they're pretty much fighting for the crossover right now, and Hamilton losing today is still giving them a shot. Them winning this game, if they had lost this game, it would have made it pretty tough. But I think right now they're in a dogfight between Hamilton, Ottawa, and themselves. And honestly, Edmonton, because if Edmonton wins on Saturday, it's still
Yeah.
it's still anybody's spot. So they're in the thick of it right now, as they told me in training camp. They're in the thick of it. So we'll see how it plans out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. Like I attended the event. I know that this is not really where they expected to be. Like I think that they thought that they would be higher up, but like you can't fault the effort. Like that's the thing with the
No,
game.
no,
With the
no,
game
not at
that's
all. It's a very young team, and I don't know why they didn't learn their lesson from 2021. But we know when the Stamps are a young team, they have trouble closing out games. Now, it's pro sports. Nobody really cares about, oh yeah, we're right there, we're knocking on the door, we're almost there, right? You either win or you lose. That's just kind of the reality of the business. So um, right now, the teams that most people are accustomed to, the Stamps always winning and always being in the hunt for Grey Cups, was always a very veteran laden team, i.e., the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, right? And they decided to go the route of going young and promising and potential, and this is kind of what's coming from it, man. And when you don't have enough guys who have been through the fire enough and been through the bullets to know different scenarios or played enough games to be able to kind of just go out there and do what they need to do to kind of make a play, right? It's one thing to draw it up in X's and O's, right? But at any point in the game, you need vets who want to go out there and get it done, right? Guys like a Sean Lemon, guys like a Falarin Rumulati, a Jameer Thurman, like those are guys who, when the game's on the line, yeah, I understand it's my responsibility, but there's a play there to be made. I'm going to go make the play so we can win the game. So we've always had guys like that, and they don't really have too many of those in the locker room. So I think that's part of the reason why they're having the season that they're having.
Yeah, I think it was Reggie, was Jeff Hamilton, who works in Winnipeg, was here, and he kind of asked, like he was asking some of the guys who had been around, 2016, 17, 18, and he asked them, what was different. And I think it was Reggie. I don't want to get that wrong, but said like Reggie showed up on day one, and he was like every single player sort of felt like they had a shot of playing in the NFL. Like that was the standard. That they were like, it was a team, it was veteran guys, they were playing for each other, but like the expectation was that every single player was not only the best in the league, but like ready and capable of playing in the NFL at any given moment.
I mean, honestly, man, if you look back at the rosters that, especially when I was there between 2015, 2016 to 2018, even 2019, like there was a ton of guys who ended up having 1 or 2 year success and then going down south. Now, obviously, the biggest one is Alex, but even Therm got a chance to go down south. Vodders, I mean, think about it.
Yeah, Vaughters played it down there too. It's not like he was just on practice rosters.
And here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize: guys like Mark and Michelle, Vodders, Devers, Daniels, they sat out 2018 Grey Cup. They didn't even play, even though they was on the team, because we had other guys who were good, right? We had Chris Matthews, who was, everybody knows, who had a good Super Bowl, right? We had Bakari Grant, we had Juwan Breskinson, we had Lamar Durant. Like we just had so many players. It just wasn't enough spots and wasn't enough balls to go around for everybody. But those guys were like, we had really good teams that just,
Yeah.
even if somebody got hurt, you already knew the next guy up was going to come in and just kind of keep the train rolling, right?
And the craziest thing that, like, for me, as I look back and I'm like, all right, you had Alex and McManus one year, like in 2018. They
He was
both, or
that's
so
what I'm saying.
no, it was
Witten was a
Alex.
special teamer for us.
I
He
know.
wasn't even a starting linebacker. Like,
Well,
come on, man.
and Thurman. So all those guys and Nate Hawley went NFL as well.
Nate
Like
Holly.
four
Yeah.
linebackers in back-to-back years got NFL contracts. Like
Yeah.
That can't
That's
have ever happened before.
And I think a little bit too. I think a lot of people are seeing the effect of having these spring leagues and having NFL rosters having bigger practice squads. Is that there's just not enough
Yeah.
players that used to be available for scouting, right? Where you could find a bunch of guys and kind of stash them and just know you got guys in the wings waiting to play well, right? It's kind of really watered down now because a lot of those players who, think about it, if the USFL and XFL was around, we may not have had 3 or 4 years of having linebackers who were good enough to kind of, you know, be all stars and go on to get NFL shots, right? So, I think a lot of people what they're seeing is they're seeing effects of how tough it is to scout now, especially with colleges having NILs, right? I mean, college athletes in the next 5 years, they're going to be taking pay cuts to be CFL players. Like,
Yeah.
how do you sell that to a dude like who goes from making, he can make 100 to 250K USD in college, and then you're telling him to come play for 80, 90K, Canadian, which comes out to 50, 60K, right? That's a huge pay cut to tell a guy to take, right? As opposed to playing in a spring league for 10 weeks, getting good film, and then going right into an NFL training camp, right? That's just the enticing thing, right? So it's gonna be tough for these next couple of years, right? If the guys are in the building don't figure it out and don't progress properly, because it's not gonna be as easy to just kind of find replacements off the street that's gonna come in and play well.
Well, and I think that's probably most true at offensive line, right? Like, I think that that's like one of the things that people like. Just I listen, NFL teams are desperately looking for offensive linemen. There just aren't that many guys your size who are that athletic who can play at the professional level. So, like, that's where, man, just like recruiting these left tackles and these right tackles, like those guys have options now, and there aren't many of them out there to begin with. So I don't
Yeah,
know,
there
and
aren't
I think
many
that
of them.
like if I look at and I have maintained, I've said this so many times, like I think Jake Mayer has come in. Like, don't get me wrong, he's had games where he hasn't played great, but like he's come under a lot of criticism when it's like he's constantly under pressure, and
Yeah.
like I felt bad for Jake at times because people are like, oh, the play calling, he's not looking downfield. I'm like, he doesn't have time to look downfield. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances to that, and just I have the inside
yeah,
information because I was there, right? So, um, Jake is one of those quarterbacks where, because he's not as tall, he needs a little more space to be able to kind of see, especially when you got Zach Williams, who's 6'7". You got big guys in front of him that it's kind of hard for him to kind of see over the trees, right? And especially now, like you look at these D lines across the league, man, you got some really big D lines in the CFL this year that are really good at pushing the pocket and kind of condensing the pocket a little quicker than normal, right? So I think it's just a lot of combination of just those little nuances, right? Jake is a guy who's really comfortable throwing off his back foot. So if he can't really get that back foot planted to kind of go into his throws, right? His throws become a little erratic, they become rush, right? So you got to be able to give with any quarterback. We used to always say the same thing when we had Bo, right? We understood that we kept Bo comfortable in the pocket, he was going to be able to make the throws that he needed to make. And when we didn't keep him comfortable, sometimes he did bail us out a lot. Bo did bail us out a lot in the times with him, being able to use his feet and run and kind of make things happen, right? A lot of his best plays were kind of on the scramble drill, right? Where he would just tell a guy go deep and just throw it up there and let him go get it. So yeah, it's just when you don't have experience, like you look at the good offensive lines throughout the league, they got a lot of experience on their offensive line, right? Everybody's always going to talk about Winnipeg. Winnipeg is always going to be top two, top three O lines because they got a lot of experience in three guys like Newfield and Hardrick and Stanley Bryant, right? You look at an offensive line like Toronto. Toronto's got guys who've been in the league for a long time. Been playing around, right? Dejon Allen's been in the league for 3 years. He's playing really well this year. You look at a guy like who else they have? Isaiah Cage has been on their practice roster for 4 or 5 years, right? Guys who have been around the league and can play this game, right? So it's not so much being able to have, rookies being able, like rookies are not going to be able to come in and just kind of play well off the bat, especially in the CFL. It's a different game. That yard off the ball is a different nuance. Like there's a lot of things that play into it, right? People always tell me like I kind of picked up the game really fast for somebody who never played it before, and that's not common. But I was just a guy who I was really high on developing myself in my free time. So like I was a gym rat. I stayed in the gym. I stayed working with people. I stayed trying to get tips. I was always trying to make myself better because I really wanted to play and I really wanted my career to go well for me, right? I mean, these linemen nowadays, man. That's why I'm coaching high school football now. I see it, man. I'm doing O-line development with guys. Like, there's just so many things that, like, when I tell guys something and they're like, "Oh man, no one's never told me that before," and I'm like, "What are these offensive line coaches at these schools like? What are they teaching these kids? What are they preparing them for? Like, what are these kids doing on their own time to kind of help develop themselves, right? Because pro football is pro football. You don't have time to develop. You got to be able to come in and be able to do the job right off the bat. So, I mean, especially in the trenches, man. The way these offensive schemes are going in college, the way things are going, right? Offensive linemen that are going to be able to kind of just, especially in the CFL game, drop back, 70, 75, 80% of the time and really be able to hold up and do a lot of one-on-ones, right? Um, I think what prepared me to play in the CFL was I played arena ball before I came up there, and I've never seen an offensive lineman who played arena who didn't come up to the CFL and had a good career. Like most of the
Why?
guys that because it's just arena is strictly one on ones. Like you're not doing nothing but one on one pass pro for 60 minutes, so it kind of forces you to kind of develop your pass pro skills because your game reps are literally you just doing one on ones, right? It's like everybody kind of moans about not being able to wear pads in practice, and that's why offensive lines are getting well and developed because they can't wear pads in practice. But honestly, I don't think the banging is what it's just guys are not doing what they need to do to develop their skills, and they're not trying to find ways to kind of improve and kind of build on their toolbox. And you can't just do it in practice. You got to do it on your own. You got to be able to kind of get the right tips and get around people who have done it before and kind of pick their brains, and you got to go from there, man. So I still got a great relationship with a lot of those guys. I mean, they still call me to this day. Guys still reach out to me. They're like, "Hey, man, what you doing? You want to get on a plane and come back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not my call, bro." But man, I got a lot of friends in that locker room, man. I'm always rooting for those boys. I'm always keeping in touch with them. I know they're having a tough year. I just try to, give them my little encouraging words and say, "Keep your head up, man," and just got to fight through. So it's an adverse year for them.
So, a question on that, like you obviously watched the Labor Day Classic, and like for me, I'm not like I try to admit what I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What I saw in the first half was I was like constant pressure. Like I didn't think that Jake had any time to operate. I thought that the O line was it looked like they were getting beat at times pretty clean, and then I saw them get better. And on the second, I saw something get better in the second half.
yeah.
What did you like? What was the difference? Was it partially that Edmonton started playing like a more prevent defense and sitting back and not sending as many guys? Like,
I mean, it could be a lot of factors played to it. Maybe they got the lead and they just was kind of in prevent and they wanted to protect it and they just kind of just stopped being aggressive and stopped going after Calgary and that gave them a chance to get back into the game. Maybe maybe the offensive play calling changed up a little bit and they started, getting the ball out of Jake's hand a little quicker and not kind of throwing those downfield routes, right? Maybe I didn't see a lot of like just straight up 6-man pros, and if there was, it kind of looked like it turned into like a lot of 5-man pros where they was just kind of releasing the back and just kind of kept giving them a quick outlet where like, okay, your first option's not there, take the check down type of thing. So it could be a lot of things. They were running the ball a little better. They had some success running the ball. We've always had success in Labor Day Classics when we ran the ball well, and I think in the beginning they ran the ball well. They just couldn't connect on those whenever penalties would come up or I think that's a lot of it. What hurt them is they were taking dumb penalties at the wrong time and doing stuff like that.
well,
So yeah,
my
it's
like
just
one of my stories of the game is Diedrich taking that penalty and then later in the game coming back and scoring the game winning touchdown. Like and Matt Rose actually tweeted out, he was like, "This is what happens when you have both those guys because Kadeem can do the heavy lifting for the first 3 quarters, and then Diedrich's got fresh legs." And I think we saw that a little bit. Kadeem was amazing too, but like, and I don't know, like I think Diedrich, I don't think anyone on the Stamps was thrilled with that penalty call. Like, I think they felt like there was
nah.
pushing on both from both guys, but he also like he did hit the mask, so that's always going to be a penalty.
Yeah, it's always the second guy that gets caught for penalties. It's not the first. So normally, if you do any type of reactionary thing to whatever happened to you, you're going to get caught most of the time. So I've been in situations where I could have, I was always a little more cerebral in the sense of like I wasn't just, I talk more with my pads than I do, with the roo rah rah and all that stuff. Like some guys just they need that to play well, right? Some guys like to talk smack, they like to do it right. I was more of a I was where I could show you better than I could tell you, type of person. So that's just what happens. Y'all just got to be smarter, and that comes with experience. Dietrich is getting up there in the sense of a veteran. He's played enough games. He's been around long enough. That's why he's able to bounce back and do that. And that was big time for him at the end of the game, right? He could have easily just, you know, A lot of the holes collapsed on him. He didn't really have his initial run
Wow.
there. He was able
That
to
was a
kind of
heads up
bounce.
play, man. Yeah.
That was a heads up play, man. So honestly, that comes from experience and that comes from reps. So, hats off to him. That Diedrich is my boy, man. I got a great relationship with him, man. That's one of my dudes. I talk to him all the time. So I'm happy for him that he was able to kind of go make that play. And it was a big time. It was a big time play because they needed it to win that game for sure.
Yeah, because you were saying last time you were on, like him and Kadeem are both in Arizona
Yeah,
off
yeah.
season at least, right? So you guys see a fair bit of each other.
Yeah, man. With Diedrich's, his girlfriend just came to my kid's birthday party last week. So like we're
Nice.
pretty tight like that, right? So
Yeah.
so I talk to him all the time, man. Honestly, all the things he's doing, I was telling him he was gonna do in the offseason, man. Diedrich's a really good football player, man. Everybody's getting a chance to see it, and he's gonna have a busy offseason, for sure. He's got a lot of good tape, so I'm happy for him.
Um, I gotta say, like, this is something that I don't know. Like, I maybe just been making up this, but like, I feel like people forgot about Markin. And over the last couple weeks, like when that guy gets like he was almost treated when he got here, everyone was like, "Oh, he's a deep ball threat," and he is. Like he's got that speed, but it's when he gets the ball in his hands that like he just
Just
does things that other receivers can't do.
Absolutely. He's one of those guys where you just got to put the ball in his hands and let him go do what he does. And he can do everything. He can do sweeps. He can do short routes and turn them into big runs. Like he's a very complete. There's a reason why he spent 4 years in the NFL, right? He's a very good football player, and I think a lot of people forget how good he is because again, like I said, right, in 2018, Markin, got hurt, and then towards the end of the season, we brought in, reserves, and he didn't even get to play in the Grey Cup, right? And he still got a chance to go to the NFL, even though he didn't even get to finish out the season, right? That's how good of a football player he is, man. So, I was just on the phone with him a couple of days ago too, just talking to him. He was on the phone for a couple hours. Like those are my guys, man. Like for life, man. I have great relationships with a lot of them, so I'm always happy. I know he when he signed, he called me. He was like, "Man, I thought I was coming back to play with my dog," and like what happened, type of thing. So, um, yeah, man. Like I said, man, he's a guy that you always got to keep involved. I think they do need to kind of look for him more. I'm bad they got Markeith Ambles back. He's a guy who's had great success there.
Man,
He
he had a
he
catch late
made a
in that
big
game.
catch. He made a big catch
Man,
late in the game, man. That was crucial, and that's what happens when you have veteran guys who have played the game and have had success. Right? When you have veterans around, they make those plays for you. Right? So
yeah, it's funny that one like probably won't be like the highlight reel one, but just the way like man, like he knew the
that
contact
was a
was coming. Like
big time
yeah,
catch.
like you're about to get rocked and you come down with that clean. Like that's I don't know, that says something to me. It's also been crazy, like just on the topic of your teammates from 2018. Like it's crazy seeing Tavares all of a sudden. Like we've always like Tavares has always just been so good and so consistent. But now in Toronto, he's finally getting the ball thrown his way in a way that you're seeing him be one of those top receivers in the league.
Well, that's how he was in Calgary. When you target him, he's going to make plays, and he's going to make big ones too for you. So, I think now they're starting to, get him more involved, and see that what he can do for an offense. I think him and Chad Kelly probably have a great relationship, and that's probably why he's starting to get targeted a little more, right? Because he has, a great relationship with the current quarterback, right? A lot of people don't realize the relationship that quarterbacks have with their receivers off the field is a big thing when you get on it. So if guys don't feel like you're one of the guys, or they don't feel like you one of the boys, or they just feel like you're a little more too worried about other things, right? Sometimes that's going to trickle onto the field, right? So guys, just I'm happy for Didi, man. It's about time, man. He's is a reason why Toronto kept re-signing him, because they know what he can do. They know what type of player he is, right? So he's finally kind of reminding everybody of, don't forget I was the most outstanding rookie with 10, 11 games under my belt, type of guy. So
Yeah. Do you have Toronto as the pretty clear number one right now?
yeah, I mean that's clear as day. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the best team in the league, hands down. There's really not too many. I mean, even Winnipeg is not. I don't think
Before
Winnipeg.
yesterday, I was like they're 1A and 1B, but
Yeah,
like
no,
Winnipeg's just lost a couple games this year, and Toronto hasn't.
Winnipeg is beatable, very beatable.
I
Yeah,
don't
they're very
understand.
beatable.
I don't like. It's weird that they like because they on their day they look so good,
Yeah,
but like they're not on their day every game.
no, they're not. And I think that just comes from people just they've been around long enough that people have film on them, right? And when you've been winning for so long, eventually people are going to figure out what it is that you're good at, and they're going to try to find ways to take it away. Now, the thing about Winnipeg is that they're a veteran laden team, so you can't never really count them out, because they got guys who are gonna make plays, man. And honestly, as long as you got number 8 at quarterback, you always got a shot.
Yeah.
You always got a shot, man. That my nickname for Zach is Houdini because he makes the impossible possible all the time. And it's times where you think it's a sack. He's no way he's gonna make it happen, and somehow he scrambles out and he finds someone sitting in the end zone for a touchdown. You're like, how did he pull that off? So
There were so many games the last couple seasons where, like, I'm not kidding you, like, it was Stamps, Winnipeg, and you guys always played each other tough. Like, those games always looked like wars in the press box. But where it, like, came down to one play, and I thought you guys had him locked. Like, the D line was collapsing on him, like, and good tacklers. Like, this isn't a knock on the
yeah,
Stamps, and he
somebody pull him to the
somehow
ground. He pulled Patrick Mahomes and somehow twirls it to the end zone for a touchdown.
exactly. Yeah, no, he's incredible, and I mean, and that's the other thing with that team, like, not to go too hard on them, but, like, I've
Nah,
also the respect that people seem to have for Big Hill and for Willie around the league, like just talking to players, like it just does seem like those two, as far as defensive players, are just like universally admired.
I'm a little different in aspect when it comes to that. Now, don't get me wrong; they are great players. Do I think they're as great as some people make them seem? Probably not. But they are guys who are going to make plays. They're really good. Willie is a playmaker. Big Hill is a guy who's a sure tackler. He's going to be where he needs to be most times. Most of the times, the only time you're going to make him, you got to make him miss. And you got to really make him miss his tackle in order for you to kind of make a play. Now, 9 times out of 10, he's going to be where he needs to be, and he's going to go make the play that he needs to make, right? And he's very good in the sense of he's probably one of the better blitzing linebackers in the league in the sense of rushing the passer and putting him into blitzing situations where he could get to the quarterback. He's always been really good at that. Willie's just a guy he's a playmaker, man. Honestly, I don't really categorize him as a defensive end. He's more of an athlete. He's just a guy that you just want on the field because some way, shape, or form, his length and his athleticism is gonna show some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
And but in the sense of like, as a pass rusher, um, he's good. I mean, they I think what they do is they do a really good job of putting them in positions to win, and that's why they're successful. And I think that's what makes their coaching staff really good is that they take their playmakers and they don't care where they got to put them. They're going to put them somewhere where their playmakers can make a play for them, right? And that's the mark of a coach who understands who his roster is, who he has at his disposal, and who's going to be good for him, right? Instead of saying, "Hey, this is my offense. You need to fit into what I do." You're going to look at your roster and say, "Okay, who do I have? What can I do with these guys? Okay, how do I put them in the best positions to go make plays for me so that we can go win football games?"
speaking of guy who makes plays, like, how happy are you for Lemon right now?
That's my dog. Like that's my brother right there. Like I'm
Yeah,
I'm super excited for him. We talk literally every day. I talk to him every day before games, after games. We like that's my dog, man. It's crazy too because me and him started out as like straight nemesis. Like
really.
he was so bent on proving to everybody that I wasn't as good as everybody thought I was. And then we finally played each other and I earned his respect. And then for me, earning his respect as a player, it just kind of blossomed into a really great friendship, man. To the point where that's my dude, man. I'll ride out for that guy any way, shape, or way. But he deserves it, man. He's a great player. I'm happy for him. I can't wait till he breaks 100 because I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go just as crazy as if I broke the record myself, man. Because he's a surefire CFL Hall of Famer, and he gets a lot of slack from a lot of people, and he doesn't get the respect that he absolutely deserves because he is pretty much the premier pass rusher in the league right now. There's nobody in the league. I think the next closest guy is Willie, and Willie's about 30, 40 sacks away from Lemon, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's really when you talk about a premier pass rusher, it doesn't get better than my dog Lemon. So, and that's not me saying that as his
Huh.
friend. Like, that's just a guy who's battled against him, who's played against a lot of defensive ends. I've gone against a lot of all-time greats, man, and honestly, Lemon is definitely one of them, man. So I'm happy for him. I can't wait till he breaks the record, man, and I'm gonna send him a celebratory shout out when he do it.
Yeah, well, and you said it. There's also no one who, like, for some reason, there's this reputation about him, and like, and he said it. He's like, "Oh man, people say I leave teams." He's like, or like teams let me go. He's like, "But they always bring me back."
Yeah,
It's clearly not like, and I don't know, man. I loved covering the guy.
nah,
He was like, he's smart. He's so intellectual. You see the
absolutely.
work he puts in. Like, it's just like that reputation is just like, it's just incorrect. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like,
Yeah, I think it's just more just it's kind of the same thing I got. Like people just look at me, they look at how I carry myself, and they just kind of make some preconceived notions about who I am. Or Honestly, what I always say is, if you've ever met someone who could say something bad about me, then they really don't know me.
Yep.
It's just what it is. If people are gonna say something bad about somebody that they really don't know, then that speaks more about their character than that does about that person. So, Lem is, when you get to know him, he's a
Yeah.
A1 person, like just person. Like he's always willing to help people. He's always there for people. He's a great guy to talk to. Very, like you said, very smart, very knowledgeable. He knows the game. He eat, breathes, sleep, shits football. Like when you talk about a person who loves the game, he loves the game, and that's what every coach wants. So it's kind of hard for, you don't see why, like you got a guy who literally, like, his whole being is about being the best football player he could be. Like that's the guy you want, and you see what he did for Montreal. Honestly, you see their culture shift with bringing a guy like him into the building, right? And I think that's what we're seeing in Calgary, right? When you lose those guys who are culture setters in your team and in your, who understand what it is to be a Stampeder, who understand what it is, how we carry ourselves, what we do, how we build camaraderie. Like when you lose those guys, it's kind of hard to keep the train rolling, and you can't just pop people in that just kind of, you think, oh, it's just chess, not checkers, right? You can't just throw pieces in there and think they're going to do the same thing, right? You need certain people around that's going to help, cultivate your culture. So, um, yeah, man. But again, that's my dog. I'm happy for him. I know he's about to break 100 here in the next week or two. So, um, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna ask you one more before going. Did you retired, like you made the decision pretty quickly, and I know you're a guy who, like, you have it, like you live and die football, but you have interests outside of football. You got a family, like you're doing all that. Did you, like, you have teams called you just to see?
Nah, I think everybody thinks I'm pretty much done.
Yeah,
Um,
they understand
Yeah,
that.
but I have reached out to teams to say, hey, if you really need some help, if you call me, I wouldn't mind, coming to help out for a little bit. So, um, but honestly, like, yeah, sometimes I watch and I get the itch, and I'm like, it's still there. Um, Honestly, I think the time away has kind of, helped my ankle a little bit. Like I'm in actually great shape right now, like phenomenal shape. I've been losing, weight. I'm still working out. My ankle's good. Like I could probably go play a 60-minute football game tomorrow if I had to. But um, yeah, I think it's just more like the politics was what really got to me. Like I just got tired of being treated a certain way. I just thought that, I demanded a certain amount of respect and I just wasn't getting it. And, my name was getting dragged through the mud, for whatever reason. And it's just, I mean, honestly, I just took it as it is what it is, man. I did what I had to do. If you look at, and not too many guys
I
did
mean,
what I did in a
the
6-year
resume
window.
speaks for itself. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
to see what I did in a 6-year window is just, you don't see that all the time. So I feel like I did what I did. I can still play the game. Like I said, I'm very involved in the sense I'm watching games. I'm still in contact with a lot of guys. Um, I know a lot of guys don't like me from last season, from that whole All-Star fiasco. I heard a lot of guys are mad at me because they feel like I kind of robbed them of an All-Star. But I mean, it is what
Really?
it is. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I heard a lot of guys were peeved about me when I went on that whole rant about, the All-Star voting and how it went and all that stuff. And then things got changed. Like a lot of guys think that it got changed because of me. I don't think I have that much juice, but yeah, a lot of guys were just mad about the stuff I was tweeting and saying. And
It's
I'm
also,
like,
I'll say this as a media guy, like we shouldn't be voting on offensive line one way or another. But to be honest, like I don't think enough of us understand it. I don't think like when I'm watching Montreal play, like I'm not really watching their offensive line. Like I
no,
honestly no, and like the CFLPA All Star stuff. There's always some stuff that I don't agree with in there too. Like I'm not saying there's a perfect
that's
system,
I call that
but
the
like,
hater. I call that the haters, Paul.
do you? Yeah,
Yeah, players hate on each other more than anybody. Like it's crazy, but a lot of guys just like me. I've always been a guy to say, like, if I really felt like somebody was better than me, I have no problem with saying, hey, that dude is really good. Like he's better than me.
yeah.
But I've never come across someone who I thought that, like, yeah, they play well, but I'm not gonna say they're playing better than me. Like honestly, I feel like I probably should have had 3 MOLs by now. Like I think I should have got it in 2018, and definitely should have had it last season. But
I mean, I'm sorry. Look at the O line. Like, look at the difference. Not having you there for the Stamps this year. I'm not
hey,
trying to knock on any of these young guys. They're
hey,
working
hey,
hard. Like,
hey, you said it, not me.
yeah, it's crazy to me.
Nah.
Um, right, man. Well, we did half an hour here, so I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate it, man. Hey,
Yes,
I got free time, man. Whenever you need me, Danny, man,
and
just
I'd
hit
love
me
to
up,
do
man.
this more. Like honestly, I always feel like I feel weird asking people to come on. Like that's the thing, right? But
Why?
like, well,
It's your job, man.
that's true. True.
Well, I mean, you get a double bonus from me because I'm a player and I got a journalistic background. So
I know
this is kind of double fold for me. I
you're
love
good at
doing this
this.
type of
If
stuff
TSN ever redoes their panel, get you on. Um,
for sure.
yeah. Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Hey,
Later,
I
baby.
appreciate you, man. You have a great night, man, and we'll be in touch.
Guys, what are you doing tonight? I don't know what you're doing tonight. You're probably looking for something. Guys, you got to go check out Mike's Pub. This is probably my favorite pub in the city, 1330 15th Avenue Southwest, right in the Beltline. Honestly, they do it all. I, for years, played trivia on Wednesday nights at Mugs. It's the best trivia night in the city. Other nights, they got music. They got specials every single night. Some of the best food and drink specials in the entire city are at Mugs Pub. You want wine, you want beer, you want cocktails. They got it all. Big fan of their fish and chips. They got some amazing pizza. You want to watch the game? They got TV screens. You want to just have a drink with friends? Perfect spot to do it. You want to have some food? As I said, it's delicious. Mugs Pub. We love having them as a sponsor. We love having them just down the road from us here at our studios. Check out Mugs Pub. They're the best. All right. Thank you again to Derek. Thank you to Mugs Pub. Thank you to Fraser and Fig. Thank you to you, our listeners. Guys, this has been a fun weekend. I feel like this weekend really lived up to sort of the Labor Day stuff. I have been very vocal about not liking the 5 p.m. start for Labor Day here in Alberta. I had Jerry Motorjong staying with me at my place this weekend, and he's now got to drive back. He won't be getting back till midnight. I know a lot of people from Edmonton, first day of school tomorrow, didn't want to have to make that, but ultimately, yeah, disappointing, but didn't take away from a pretty wild game here in Calgary. You could just see, like, I mean, I think anytime you talk to a football coach after a game, they're always pretty exhausted. You realize just like the physical and emotional and mental toll that the coaching football takes. But man, Dave Dickinson sure seemed exhausted today. He seemed relieved. The whole team. I think that they needed this one, and I have sort of said that I don't. Maybe this season because it's been the toughest that I've covered for the Stampeders. I felt less aligned with fans a lot of the time here in Calgary than I have in seasons past. We've always sort of agreed on most of the things, but I have sort of felt that the Stampeders team was probably better than their record. No, things don't always come together perfectly for them. There's still some growing pains. Clearly, no one's denying that. But uh, even I was sitting there at halftime that game, just kind of not sure. Kind of felt like maybe this was the end of it, uh, and that there was nothing to salvage this season, and that we needed to sort of accept that and being in sort of more of a growth mode and a development mode. But I don't think we can say that anymore. Man, the way that they played, if they can look like that fourth quarter more consistently, I do think that they can beat some teams, and they've got work to do. As I said, I like these riders. Like, I'm not supposed to say that as the Calgary reporter, but I like the way that they fight. And the Bombers, you don't want to, you're never going to want to see the Bombers in the playoffs. The Lions, it's been stop and start, but they're right there. And I do think that the Elks are getting better. They're not great yet. I don't even know that they're necessarily good, but they're not a they're not a horrible football team, whatever people think. They're learning how to win, and Stamps learned to win tonight. They got the win. They needed that win, and I can't sit here and pretend that I'm not a little bit happy for him, because I have seen the work that they put in. I think that's the thing being a football reporter is every day you're there, you see how hard these guys are working, and you want everyone to be rewarded for their hard work in this job, in this world. So, guys, I need to get to bed. I need to chug about 4 liters of water. Should probably eat a salad or something. I don't know. It's 10 p.m. on a Monday. I hope you guys had a great. I hope you guys enjoyed this weekend of football as much as I did, and I'm looking forward. I have to. In 2 days we'll be recording again, so we're gonna have to figure that out. But thank you so much for listening, guys. Please like and subscribe. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, YouTube. Yeah, pass it on if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much. Cheers.